Sweet. Okay. There we go. Okay, so just a reminder for the members, don't forget to say hi in the chat box so we can give you credit. And then if you only have your first name on your Zoom profile, make sure you add your last name so we know exactly who you are, because we do have a lot of duplicates. So we want to make sure we give the right person the right credit. So just a reminder for volunteer and hour opportunities. So for every meeting, it's 1 hour. Blood drives, we only have 2 blood drives left. It's November 2nd and November 17th. So if you haven't gotten your blood drive hour in, those are the 2 that you have left to do it. We can get you flyers to pass out if you can't donate, or we'll send out the donation link in an email. And then as always, food donations to the Sam Houston Food Pantry. 3 items is 1 hour. And then you can do unlimited donations, just as long as you get, 3 items, then you're gonna get 1 hour at least. And then Rita B. Huff donations. So for every 3 items, it's 1 hour. You just send us a picture of it and then we'll give you credit. And then the Alzheimer's Association, every $5, you get 1 hour. And then I don't know if anyone's done the tutoring yet, but Denise Garcia, she has more information on if you want to do Zoom tutoring. And then any outside volunteering that you do, just make sure you record it on the outside hours log, and then we'll be able to add it at the end. So like I said, the blood drive opportunities, the last 2 are November 2nd and November 17th. So save the date, don't forget. They've been turning out really, really good. They've been filling up, so that's awesome. That's never happened. So this is like the first semester that the blood drives have consistently filled up. So yay for y'all. I'm really happy. And Teresa's happy too. So that's always a great thing. So don't forget 2 hours for donating red blood cells, and then additional 2 hours if you donate plasma. So that's 4 hours total. And then 1 hour if you try to donate and then you get rejected for any reason at all. And then 1 hour for every hour that you hand out flyers.
Quick question.
Then, yeah.
I think the first time school started, when we had to do the blood drive thing, remember I said it on the group chat, that was turned down because of my iron levels. How do I report that so I can get the hours?
Just send the information to Denise Garcia. Her email is dag058@shsu, and then she'll record it as you got 1 hour for trying.
Okay, gotcha. So, all right.
Yeah, and then just let her know what date you tried, because we can also just double check to make sure that you did try. I believe you, but we gotta check.
Right. And another question.
Yeah.
The volunteer hours has to be 10 hours minus every other hours, right? Or all of them, all the hours got to be 10 hours.
So total, you need 10 hours for the semester. And then everything you earn after 10 hours for this semester is going to roll over to the spring to kind of help you guys out.
Okay, so I thought it was like it has to be 10 hours for volunteer.
For total, just total hours. So including the meetings and everything like that.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then I also wanted to remind you guys, I don't know if there's any juniors or seniors in here, but if you're getting to the point where you're preparing to apply to med schools or any other type of school, you do get a discount with BMO Academic Consulting. They can help you with your interviews. They can help you with your personal statements, the application process, pretty much everything that you can think of that you would logistically need, they can help you with. And they also do Casper Prep and CARS Prep. And then it's for a whole host of occupations. So it's not just for pre-med students, it's for everyone. So make sure you check it out if that's something you're interested in, or maybe something that you need help with. And then let me know, and then I can help you get the 5% discount. And then as always, if you have any questions, this is all of our emails. So feel free to email us, or if you have a specific question for a specific person, you can just email them directly and we'll probably respond pretty quickly. And now we have our student panel. So let me pull up the questions.
Hey, Morgan.
Yeah.
Really quickly too, I know y'all are doing the blood drive, and I've heard with Gulf Coast that any person who donates, they're doing like a free antibody test for COVID too. So that's kind of like an incentive to go. They'll test it for free. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. And they do that with every single person that decides to donate. So if that's something that you're curious about, that might be something that would really, really help. Let me share my screen again. Okay, so I think probably what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go down the line. So we'll do, let me come up with an order so everyone gets a chance to answer all the questions. So we'll do Kara, Lorenzo, and then Michael, and then Paul and Noah. Okay, so we'll just answer the questions like in that order, if that makes it any better. Okay, so the first question is just tell us a little bit about yourself. So what did you study whenever you were an undergrad? And then what are you doing now?
Can you hear me? Okay. My name's Kara. I studied at Sam Houston all 4 years, got accepted my last 2 years for the nursing program, and I graduated in May of 2019. And now I work at Texas Children's in the ER, and I have my BS in RN. So that's fun.
I'm Lorenzo. I was the former president of Shamos, and during undergrad, I had a major in biology and a minor in health, and I graduated in 2019. And I took a gap year due to some like course deficiencies, but I applied to McGovern Medical School and I got accepted this year. So I'm an MS1 student at McGovern Medical School, and that's about it.
Hey y'all, my name is Michael Jr. I am a fourth year medical student at Texas A&M College of Medicine. I went to Texas A&M University for undergrad, of course, and I studied biology. I'm from Dallas. Like my friend Lorenzo, I also had a gap year in between college and medical school, and I worked as a high school college advisor. So I like help students kind of like navigate the college application process and everything. Currently, as a fourth year, like I just finished up my like away rotations, which is like me going to different residency programs and trying to get them to hire me. So now I just like finished my last one on Friday and starting like applying for residency, and I'm waiting to hear back for interviews. I'm applying to OBGYN and I'm looking forward to the process.
Hey y'all, I'm Archerita. I was the president of Shamos too before Lorenzo, so way long time coming. But I also did biomedical science, pre-med, and right now I graduated in 2019 as well. But right now I'm serving as an AmeriCorps member, serving like higher education, and at a local nonprofit in Austin, also doing similar work that Michael actually did in his gap year. So that's what I'm currently doing too.
Hello, everyone. I'm Noah. I'm a second year optometry student. I graduated also in May of 2019. And yeah, that's about it. And my major was biomedical sciences.
Cool. Okay, so the next question is when did you start studying for your entrance exams during undergrad? And then how did you study for them?
So I had to get into nursing school, we have the TEAS exam. Some places have the TEAS and some places have the HESI. I was not very diligent on this. I think I studied maybe like the month before. Don't do that. Didn't get the best score. They told me don't apply. I applied anyway, and thank God got in. But I would, for my NCLEX, which was my exit exam, I know not everyone has taken that yet, but I studied maybe 2 months, used UWorld, and that was like the best experience ever. So if I can like recommend anything, it's just not making it your life, but starting it earlier and making your life easier and doing it gradually rather than cramming it all like I did. So, and I just used the books that they provided and then UWorld for those. And I highly recommend UWorld.
So I I studied for the MCAT kind of I didn't study the right way. So what I did was I was in my senior year, my second semester, and I was kind of like, senioritis is kicking in. I didn't want to study for my MCAT. So I waited all the way until after graduation to study. And I think that was about like 2 weeks. And I studied hard and I got a really bad score. And so I had to retake again. and I used a month to retake, and I got a better score, enough to get into a medical school. And so like my experience personally was not a good one. And what I try to do now is when I try to speak to other students, I try to let them know of like different application or different kinds of um, resources that are out there. Like I know when I studied in that month, I studied really hard and I set a schedule, I set a plan. I use some Kaplan books, but it's really up to you what you want to study. When I was studying personally, I didn't use all the Kaplan books, but I used some of them. I used a lot of outside resources. I know Anki's out there, so if you haven't heard of Anki, get familiar because it's a really good tool to use. And in med school, it's kind of like the god or whatever. I don't use it personally, but I know Anki's like really good for everything. I use it sometimes, and it helps you like retain information. I also use things like Reddit. So Reddit has this subgroup of med students in it called R Premed. And what you do is you subscribe to the page and you get to hear different stories from the med students. And sometimes like they give you like their stats and stuff like that. I try not to pay attention to that part of Reddit, but there's a lot of helpful information out there, like the specific documents, specific Anki decks and things like that. So I use that a lot. And then I also try to do like, I would say that my own study method was just trying to pound it out for the 1 month. But if I were to recommend to someone else, to students that are starting to get ready for their MCAT exam, like in their junior year-ish, start studying for that exam a year beforehand. I know a year sounds like a long time, but that time it's so condensed that you don't even notice it pass by. And so like if you just set a plan and try to use those different resources while you're studying, then you probably will be way successful or more successful than I ever was. So hopefully like what I'm saying to you can like correlate to what you get to do for med school.
All right. So also like Lorenzo, I took the MCAT twice. First time, I think it was like the summer in between junior and senior year. And what I did really didn't work that well. I used Kaplan, but I think I just wasn't ready to take the exam by the time I took it. So whenever I took it again, I used Kaplan again. So it's very expensive. So if you are able to afford Kaplan, I would definitely recommend it. But if you're not, as Lorenzo was saying, like you can use like there's tons of resources, whether that's like Kaplan or you're using like because I had like this like Kaplan course that we took, but you can buy like the Kaplan books without actually buying the course. And one thing that I will recommend that you do is practice questions. I think like you really can't simulate the exam without having like seen and done a bunch of practice questions. And so I know some people were talking about UWorld. UWorld is like the god for medical school. So like we use that all the time. And apparently they make MCAT questions now. And so I'd recommend like, UWorld does MCAT questions too. So if you're looking for like practice sets for MCAT, I think UWorld would be a great option for that as well. And then the other like thing of advice that I have for you is like set a study plan that you have, regardless of how much time you have, like whether it be like a year or 3 months or 6 weeks, actually sit down and set up a goal that you like day to day, like this is what I'm going to study, this is what I'm going to get through, this is what I'm going to do. Because I think that one, holds yourself accountable, and then two, it gives you like, it makes things more bearable. I think it's kind of discouraging when you sit down and take to study for the MCAT because there's so much material on it. But when you break it down and make a schedule, I think it makes it a lot more doable.
Awesome. And then, so for those of you that did take an entrance exam, what was your experience like? I know Lorenzo, whenever we had the student panel last time, you said that you wish you had done probably more practice exams just because of the like physical like strain that you have to go through sitting through a test for several hours. Is that still like the case?
Yeah, for sure. So the most important part is, like Michael was saying, the plan. So what I did is I set up every minute by every hour. and I put in every single hour, where there was downtime, where there was studying time, where there was or eating time, things like that, hour by hour. And one of the things that you'll find out as you go through this journey is that when you begin to study for the MCAT, you will have to take your practice exams. It's recommended to take as many as you can. Like the questions are unbeatable. You just, the amount of exposure to the questions you get is, it starts to become more familiar, and then you can start to catch a rhythm in a sense. So that's what I kind of did. I was doing like a practice exam like every week, and I would do it. I would simulate a whole entire MCAT day. So the test, I think, is 8 hours. And so what we did, or what I did, was I would go to the school, because I was still at SAM at the time, and I would go to the library, and I at 8 p.m. Or 8 a.m. sharp, because that's when I took my exam. I think that's when all MCATs are at 8 a.m. I took it at 8 a.m. You go 4 hours, and I think you do I can't remember. I think you do biology and biochem and chemistry in the first half, and then I'm not for sure, so don't quote me on the order. And then you have the second half, which is like psych soc and something else. So you have 4 sections: chem, phys, biology and biochem, psych soc, and cars. And so each, you get 2 sections each. They're split into twos. 4 hours for 2 sections. You get a lunch break for like 30 minutes, and then 4 hours for the next section. And so with each thing, I would time it. I'd make sure that my breaks were in between were timed. So like, it's important to like try to simulate the real testing environment, because if you don't, it's a real shocker how much you can fatigue when you're on your break and you don't want to go anymore, and you kind of get tired. And so like, you'll figure it out. Like, there's gonna be things that you do um, before your exam that you don't know. There's a lot of things that I didn't know before taking the MCAT. So I didn't know about the breaks. I didn't know about like Kaplan and different resources. Also, too, if you can't afford things like Kaplan, like Michael was saying, you can also use I can't remember their name right now. He has a nice voice. What's his name? With all his videos, Khan Academy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Khan Academy. So Khan Academy was like, he like does specific outlines of MCAT material, and like they have a whole outline. And if you go to the AAMC, they have an entire outline of what's on the MCAT for that year. And so what they do is you can press on the specific topic. Like, say for biochem, they have a subsection of like enzyme kinetics, and you click on the enzyme kinetics, it'll take you to videos about enzyme kinetics on Khan Academy or different things like that. And you can learn for free in a sense. Now, like that I didn't know about that. That would have been great for me, because I didn't even use Kaplan and I had the books. So it's like, and I will say one thing too, Kaplan isn't for everybody. Like, Kaplan is one of those things where I took the course, and they were just like boom, 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 boom. Like, they kept hammering the material in on me, and it wasn't working for me. Like, I was retaining nothing. I did not like Kaplan. And that's not to say that you won't, but I personally did not work with Kaplan. So when I was with Kaplan and I started taking practice exams, I was scoring like in the 400s. And then when I started doing things my own way, I started scoring 500 and above. And so like, it really depends. Like, you have to work it out for yourself. Not everything has to be done like everybody else. And that's really important. Like, make sure you personalize your own thing, because if someone studies one way, that may not work for you. So just make sure you make that plan and you exhaust the resources that are out there, and then make sure that you can like, it's good to talk to other people that are in this crowd too. So like, if you Reddit, at that time I was by myself, and like only thing I had was Reddit. So I was just like, these are my friends virtually or something. So it's good to hear those stories, and like, oh, this person's struggling too. Okay, we're struggling together. It's good to know that someone's struggling with you, helps you get you through it.
So like entrance exam experience, like actually taking the test. I think it's like the MCAT specifically. It's a beast of a test. Like, it's been a while, so I don't remember. I think Lorenzo, you said it's like 8 hours. So like, it's an 8-hour test. I don't think you really get prepared for that from school. At least Texas A&M, we weren't taking any 8-hour tests. I think you really do have to like get in that mindset and simulate the actual day of the exam. I think that's very important. So like what me and my friends would do, I had a couple of friends that was studying for MCAT with me, and we used to have like MCAT Saturdays. And so we would do like a double MC practice test every Saturday, at least like leading up to the test. And so we would pull up to the library together and we would like actually simulate taking the exam with the scheduled breaks and like with taking lunch and kind of like not talking to each other. It made it more bearable doing it with other people. But I would definitely think that that really helped because you really get fatigued taking the test. And so I thought it was important to actually build up that stamina. You have to actually simulate doing those exams because you want to have worn yourself out during your time leading up to the exam. So that way, when you get to the exam, it's just another day. You know, like this isn't your first time taking an 8-hour exam on test day. You should have already done that multiple times.
So my experience with my entrance exam, it's a little different from the MCAT. It's actually shorter, but I had to take it twice, just like Lorenzo and Michael. And I think the first time I took it, I started studying in the summer from my junior to senior year. And during that time, I was heavily involved in like a big research project, and I was a counselor for like a camp for like a week or so. And so I just felt like I just had a lot of stuff going on. So I highly advise, like, when you start studying, make sure that you don't have like a lot of distractions like that. Or if you're like really in your research project, just know to try to schedule your time and make a plan, like Michael was saying. I think that really helps out a lot. I tried doing that and it did help. And so just week by week and day by day, and like Lorenzo was saying, do it by hour, schedule when you're going to eat dinner and when you're going to take breaks. And so I took it that first time and I didn't do too well. And so I had to take it again. And, you know, you just have to have faith in yourself and just study harder. I used the Kaplan self-pace, and I think like Lorenzo, you know, I really wasn't feeling it too much, but, you know, I just continued to use it. And the books, yeah, it came with the books as well. And so uh, they kind of, I don't know, it's a lot. Kaplan's a lot. And so I just felt like it was okay. And I felt like if I were to gotten like a cheaper one, I know there's other versions out there. I think there's like Chad's videos, and there's like the MCAT Destroyer or the OAT Destroyer. And taking as many practice exams is like really the best way to go. And I think the first time I took it, I didn't take a lot of practice exams, but the second time I took it, I took like a practice exam, like pretty much almost, you know, probably like 2 a week. And so I really definitely felt like that helped out a lot.
Sweet. And then, so I'm actually kind of glad that some of you guys are taking a gap year or did take a gap year. So you've already answered whether you took a gap year or not, but I want to know like why you decided to take a gap year or why you did not take a gap year.
So I was forced to take my gap year because like my chemistries didn't line up. And so the way it worked out is that I took my MCAT my senior year, and then you have to wait a year before you get your score back. And then like the whole cycle takes about a year to apply with your essays and secondaries and things like that. And so I didn't personally want to take a gap year, but after taking it, I understand that it was very much needed. Med school or any secondary school, like what Noah's in, OAT, and like different schools alike, even if nursing maybe, or just anything, it's important to understand that a certain portion of your life, especially with those schools, are gone. Like in med school, you hear the phrase that you're sacrificing your 20s for medicine. And so it's okay to slow things down and really realize like what's important to you, to figure out the things that you're going to be doing in med school, trying to find your groove. And like it's really time for yourself to reflect and be like, okay, you know, I can chill for 1 year before I give up 9 of my other years. And so that's really important. I think a lot of people that I've talked to in med school are saying that like, oh, I wish I would have taken a gap year. I wish I would have like took some time off, because you got to remember these people graduated in 2020 and then went right into school, and then boom, like it's and the saying about med school and then other schools alike is it's like drinking from a fire hose. It really is a lot. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of things you have to do. So, you know, I use that gap year to find 3 things that I like to do. And what one of my mentors told me is that if you're not doing those 3 things in the midst of med school, if you're not doing the 3 things that you love, at least uh, every month or every week, then something's wrong. You have to reevaluate your schedule and make sure you make that time for yourself, because it's really important to maintain your mental health. Like I know people say it a lot, but like it matters because when you're here and you're alone, especially during COVID, and you're alone studying all day, like it's important to take that time off. Even now in your coursework, like just chill and make sure you take time for yourself. So I think that's what the gap year did for me.
I will say too, just to like add on from what Lorenzo said, doing something that you think may even be like beneficial for your medical career, like adding on, like if you wanted to work in a hospital, doing something just to get you more familiar while you're preparing for that big step in medical school or any graduate school, like doing something that puts your foot in the door and like getting you stronger on your medical terminology, or even like how Michael was counseling the high school students, finding something passionate about that that he can go back on later and mentor people when he's a doctor. Just things like that, making your gap year beneficial while you're studying for other things. Like Lorenzo got a certification to where he'll have good, I feel like he'll have good bedside manner as a doctor, seeing what, you know, the techs did and how hard they work, you know, once you're in that position as a doctor. I think that's beneficial. Or like phlebotomy, if you're going to be drawing blood as a certain career, getting that skill practice in and being like the most skilled doctor on the floor to put in a line. Because as a nurse, I'm like, ooh, that doctor put in that line. So stuff like that, you know, I take advantage of it in your gap year.
Yeah, so my gap year, like Lorenzo said, mine was more forced. I had no intentions of taking a gap year. I just didn't do well in the MCAT, and so like I applied to medical school and I didn't get in. And so I was, I was like, okay, like I feel like I'm a good applicant, but my MCAT score was terrible. And so I was like, okay, so I think that I just need to work on this like one aspect of my application. So with that being said, I took my gap year to do something like not related at all to medicine, because I was like, this will probably be the last time that I'll be able to do that. However, as Kara just said, like, you know, if you are feeling like you need, like you're deficient in a certain area, or you need to get your foot in the door, you know, you can pursue like, what am I trying to say? A lot of people like are scribes. Like my classmates, a lot of my classmates were scribes before middle school. But I think the big thing for me with that I was able to do, I was able to do something that I was passionate about. And I think that was very important because I was able to talk about it during my medical school interviews. That's something that like every school seemed very interested in. They're like, oh, tell me about this. You seem like you wrote about it like a lot in your personal statements. And it's also something that I continue to do as a medical student, and it's something that I want to continue to do as a resident, as an attending. And so I think it's very important to kind of push things into your life that kind of like keep you well grounded. And that's something that I did during my gap year.
Yeah, I really agree with like what everyone's saying. Those are really good points. Just like I feel like same as most people, nobody really wants to like take a gap year, but I mean it's kind of like a blessing in disguise. At least it was for me. So for me originally, I just wasn't prepared for medical school at all, and I still needed to study for my MCAT. And so I knew I was going to take at least 1 year anyway. But then I kind of stumbled upon like serving through AmeriCorps and like took on a service year to like earn scholarships and spend time with my family. Since my parents are like in the older generation, you know, they're a little bit older than most parents. So I knew like medical school is going to be a really big time commitment. And so I was just like, okay, let's do this. Let's have a gap year. And then actually last year was my first gap year. And then it kind of turned into another gap year with like the pandemic and everything that's happening, which is totally okay. Like I totally get it if that happens and you're bummed out, but just like think on the positive sides of things. Because there's definitely positives for sure. Like everyone's saying medical school or any type of post-secondary or higher education is like definitely a big commitment. And so I continue to take extra gap year and maybe even more time than that. It's kind of like on the fence with me right now because of like money to go to medical school. It's a lot of money for me, and just to be able to provide support for my parents and my family right now. So I'm choosing to continue to like do extra gap years for that, to get more scholarships and provide for them. But I was also like kind of bummed out at first, but it's totally okay. I think of it as more like a little bit of a blessing because it's more time with family, more time to do things that I actually want to do.
So I didn't take a gap year. I went straight into it, but I think it would have I would have been fine taking a gap year because I felt like my summer was pretty busy. I was still doing research up until after I graduated, up until like the middle of the summer, and still had to move out of Huntsville, move back to my hometown, and then get myself settled in Houston again, and just get ready for school. So I felt like my summer was pretty busy. So I felt like if I would have took a gap year, I would have been fine. Because once things starts, once school starts, everything just starts to pick up fast, and uh, and it just gets really crazy. But as long as you're prepared, you'll be okay.
Awesome. And then this is gonna kind of sort of apply to everyone. So whether you're working or you're in school, what is your least and most favorite thing about it?
Okay, so my favorite thing about my job is basically because I work with kids. Kids are pretty awesome, and I just feel like kids are very resilient. I feel like if a adult claims that they're sick or they appear sick, in their mind they're going to be sick for a while. Kids like cannot hide it. So as soon as you give a kid like a fluid bolus or some medications, they perk like right up. And so that's probably like my favorite thing about the job is like seeing them progress because they don't hide their emotions. If they want to run around the room and eat a popsicle, they're going to do that. Um, so that's probably my favorite thing is like seeing the fast progress that kids have. They're like super resilient. Um, my least favorite thing, huh? I know this sounds so bad, but it's probably the parents. I feel like parents are pretty. I mean, it's their kid. Don't get me wrong. I don't have kids yet, so I can't really talk. I have a dog that I'm obsessed with, so I can kind of understand where they're coming from. But these parents are on a whole nother level. That's their baby. They will yell at you. They will fight you. And that's why I didn't work with adults. And here I am, dealing with them left and right. So I'd say that's about it. But I mean, pretty generic, just seeing them recover fast and helping them out. And kids like say the funniest things. They make your day go by. I've had kids swallow quarters because they say they're saving the money for later and they want to be a piggy bank, like just some crazy stuff. So I think just kids make the day go by fast. That's my favorite part of my job.
I think I can go next. I'm working as well. So my service is actually a full-time job too. So I get a stipend, but it's still considered a job. So I guess similar to what Michael was saying, I'm doing something similar. I'm like a college access coach for this organization that works and teaches with a special group of high school students in our program that are usually like first generation and low income backgrounds to help them figure out like anything and everything with college and teach them about college access and stuff. And so my favorite thing is the people in the community for sure. So of course the students, the kids, but just like the experiences that you get along the way is like probably the best part. I love like being involved in the community, and actually through the org that I used to be a student of, I was actually a student of this same organization. So now I'm coming back to like be a part of it. So it's a full circle thing, and that's really nice. It's really heartwarming. And then I think the least favorite thing, it's sometimes it's a pro, or I guess, but it just goes back to the fact that like since I'm in the education or higher education department, sometimes it really gets to me that like I had to go away from medicine for a little bit, and because I still think about medicine all the time. And it's a pro sometimes because you kind of really start noticing how parallel like the worlds are. They're very, very similar, like education and medicine. Like students can be almost compared to like patients and just how you deal with people. And I like that because it helps me think and relate my experiences a little bit abstractly. But sometimes I don't like about it is that just I really do wish that I could have more experience doing something in medicine or like, you know, and I used to combat that with like volunteering in the hospital and doing things like that. But since COVID happened, I can't spend any time in the hospital or anything in the medical vicinity. So I would say that that's maybe the least thing that I like about it and the most that I like about it.
That's awesome.
And then for those of you that are in school, like what is your least and most favorite thing about it?
Well, my favorite thing about school, I would definitely say my patience. I definitely struggled in the first year and a half of medical school because it was just like straight up class, and it was just a beat down, and it was hard to remember why I was doing what I was doing. But now, kind of being in fourth year, and having like been seeing patients for the past like year and a half, and now only like, and like I'm applying to OBGYN residency. And so it's like now I only do OBGYN. And so it's like I'm doing what I love and doing what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so it's been amazing. I think that is my favorite thing by far is my patients and the interactions you get to have with your patients. I think that's kind of what keeps you going. My least favorite thing about school, well, probably have a lot of complaints about school, but my I think my least favorite thing about school is sacrificing like my I don't want to say my youth because I feel old. I'm 26, but I think like my other friends like I graduated college with, they're all like, you know, they have like families and they're like buying houses and like going on like vacations. And so I think Lorenzo kind of touched on this. But like it's kind of hard like to sacrifice like I don't like my best years to be doing medicine because it's like, you know, you're putting in service to help others. Like it's helping you at the same time because you're being fulfilled. But it's really hard when you think about like what you're giving up to become a physician. And so whenever I was saying like your patience kind of push you forward and kind of get you through things, I think that's one of those things you got to keep in mind is like I'm making sacrifices, but I'm helping other people with those sacrifices.
Um, I cannot relate to you, Michael, enough because these years, these first 2 years, especially the first one, it's really hard. Like, and with COVID happening, um, my plan was to get myself involved in like volunteering opportunities and shadowing opportunities because you know you really do want to remember why you're doing medicine and you really want to go after what you wrote in your personal statement with how you got here. And so like that's been like a non-factor for me. So school's been really hard in general. The adjustment's really hard. You learn a lot of information in your first year and it's crazy. They just stuff a whole undergrad's worth of information into one semester, at least from McGovern. And so like it's hard. It's really hard, and especially changing my study habits coming into medical school because in undergrad I did things a certain way, and now in med school I'm having to change it up, and I'm not liking it too much, but like it's working. And so like I'm having to stick to it. I'm trying to find my groove. That's the one thing that's really hard about med school is that when you get here, the same things that worked in undergrad may not work in med school. And I say may, but they probably won't work in med school. And so your job in that first semester is to find out what does work for you. And that's really hard because now you're finding the struggle with how to do things differently than before. It's kind of like wearing shoes for the first, or put, you know how you put shoes on a dog and they have to learn how to walk on it? It's like that. Like they're trying and stuff like that. It's weird and it's hard and it's really difficult. So that's been really hard. And then the best part I would have to say is getting to do things like these. Like I know that during this time I'm not able to shadow, but being a part of different kind of panels and things like that and trying to spread what I get, like what I have, with the knowledge that I have, the very little knowledge that I have, like to students that are trying to do this, is just like really that kind of makes it for me. Like that makes up for the lost time that I'm having. And so it's like I'm able to tell you guys how it's like, tell you guys what you can do different to be better than me and things like that. So being a part of these panels and knowing that I have influence because I made it here, it's really like what's the word for it? It's very rewarding. So that's what I like about it. I like participating in panels.
I would have to say, my favorite part would be like just getting to do what I've been really wanting to do and really love, which is like optometry. And I haven't got to see patients yet, but I'm pretty close to it. I'll start getting to see patients next semester, so I'm really looking forward to that. As well as getting to know people like my classmates in my field. It really becomes like a family, really tight knit, and so just creating those lifelong friendships is something that I value and I really enjoyed while being in optometry school. And you can create that safety net and everybody kind of just helps each other out. And so that's something that I really, really liked about optometry school. I would say the least would have to be, I think like Lorenzo was saying, was like the adjustment from undergrad to graduate school. It's definitely different. It's a lot harder. Um, you have to find new studying habits and new ways to do things. And so my best advice, I think like one of my best advices to you is like to make a study planner. I really think that helps out a lot. I did that in undergrad, and like as my senior and junior year, I really didn't follow it as much. But once I got to optometry school, I didn't do it at first, but I think starting off doing it, I think it really helped out a lot once I started getting back into the groove with it, because it lets you know what you need to do for the week, what you're behind in. And so I would highly advise to make a study schedule, a plan or two.
Sweet. And then before I get to this next question, I know we only have officially 10 minutes left. So if anyone needs to leave at 7, I know you guys said you have tests and stuff. Feel free to leave. Don't feel obligated to stay. But since it is virtual, if you want to stay, you can stay and we can go through the questions. So that's completely up to you. But the next question is, what were your interviews like? And then how did you prepare for them?
I'm not sure if this relates to anybody, but just like a interview to be an RN at, basically I applied for what we have called nurse residency programs. And so instead of just being thrown in as an RN, you kind of are like paired with a preceptor for a few weeks and then you transition on your own. I totally recommend being in a nurse residency program rather than just, getting thrown into a for-profit hospital or anything like that. But my interviews with Texas Children's, and I went to about, I want to say like 3 to 4 interviews total. They were very ethical. I was very surprised. Like a lot of my questions were, I even got asked the question like, what is one thing that you regret in life and would you change it? And I was just like, I got asked that. I got asked, what was another one? If I walked in, or what was one thing that I'm most proudest of in my student nursing career? And I basically just explained like great catches that we have in the hospital. Um, Things like that. I feel like they were very straightforward. Mine was 6 people interviewing me, so 6-to-1 ratio in the room. So that was kind of intimidating. Um, and I feel like all the other one, I'm not sure how it is now. I know they may be like virtual. I've heard from a lot of people, but as long as you're prepared, I practice interview questions as long as you're prepared, you don't sound like a robot, and you're honest. I feel like one of the most important things that, because Texas Children's is pretty competitive. I think there has been some after I got accepted, but I was probably the only person in like 4 years to get accepted to their residency program. And so basically, I think my closing statement is what did it. So I would say practice your closing statement about what they didn't ask you, which that you really want them to know about you. That you're hardworking, that you'll learn things, you're detail oriented, use keywords, and just really put yourself out there. Don't sell yourself short. I have a bad habit of doing that. Don't be modest. If you're proud of something, let them know, and just tell them your achievements and let it show in your resume as well. But I just say be prepared with practice questions and don't freeze up, because I did. Once you start talking your questions out loud, you should be good in your interview in front of other people. In front of other people.
Yeah, like I really don't have much to add to that. The one thing I'll say is like whenever you do practice for your interview questions, like you can Google interview like med school, nursing school interview questions, and like you'll find hundreds of questions. And so I think you just practice those. The big thing that I thought was important when I was doing practices for my interviews was practicing in front of a mirror, so you can see like what you look like and see how, because I feel like body language is very important when you're doing interviews. So I thought that was very key for me. But pretty much everything else that Kara said was amazing, and like I don't really have much to add to that.
So my advice was that, I was in the elite program, so they kind of helped us do some practice interviews, our sophomore and junior year. So that definitely helped out a lot. But also utilizing the SAM Center, they have a great career service center. And so think I went there about 3 or 4 times before my first interview. And, I just sat down there, kind of we went through a practice interview, kind of like gave him my answers, and then we worked on my answers, and I came back and did like a real interview with them. And of course, they added like multiple more people. And so I definitely utilize that. You're a student there, you already pay for that, the Career Center, SAM Center. So just go ahead and, utilize that. I also used my mentors, uh, who are like optometrists who are already doctors, to practice as well. And so I met up with them and, did my interview questions and uh, just practicing. And I think that was a great thing to do, was practice in front of a mirror. I did that as well. Or like when I was driving or, walking to school, anytime I had downtime, I'll try to work on one question. Uh, yeah. And I think, yeah, that's about it.
I would emphasize what Noah was saying. Any downtime that I had was straight up interview questions to make sure I didn't sound like a robot. I would practice on like they were saying, in the mirror. I'd practice on my dog. I'd practice while I was walking, things like that. But I think the thing that got to me, even with all the practice in the world, right? When you get to that interview, you have to understand that whether it be for nursing, whether it be for med school, a job, residency, anything, that you made it there already. And so for medical school specifically, you got past the numbers part. You got past the MCATs, the OCHEMs, the biochems, like your scores, your numbers are there. Once you're there, you are on par with everybody there, whether they're a neuroscientist, a space center, NASA worker, whatever, you're on equal ground with everyone there. And so when you go to the interview, just remember that you have enough confidence, have confidence in yourself to understand that you're interviewing the school as much as they're interviewing you. Like, you were there because they want you there. And so when you understand that, the interview goes smoothly. So make sure to give yourself that boost of confidence. And I always say the goal of the interview is to not do the interview. So what I mean by that is, like, when I did my interviews at McGovern, I let my personality radiate. Like, if you get to that point, like, just be yourself. Let them know what you're about. Let them know why you're passionate about this. Because you have to have a certain passion to be here. Because it's hard. No, not everybody does this. Not everybody does med school, optometry school, nursing school, OT, PT, everything. Not everybody's out there like, oh, I want to do this for the rest of my life. So this is hard. Understand that first. Excuse me. And then when you get there and you radiate your personality, we didn't even talk about my interview. I think we talked about like football or baseball or something like that. And like it just went off. He did not ask me not one interview question. And I think that's what got me in, is because instead of trying to adhere to the rules of the interview, we just kind of hit it off. We started talking about other things. We started talking about things like faith. We started talking about things that really mattered to me and to my interviewer. And so that's really important to just let them know who you are and just understand the understanding that you're there because you belong there and you will get there. You just it takes time and it's okay if you have a gap year. It's okay if it takes longer than everybody else, but you're gonna be there. So just remember that.
I just want to add real quickly to that. That was very good, Lorenzo. I would also advise to come up with some questions to ask the interviewers. I think one of the questions I asked was like, "What's something that makes a good student for your class?" or "Why'd you join this facility or program that they're in?" and ask them about their research. And so I really think that leaves an impression on them, as well as sending them like a thank you email or a card. And yeah, I think Lorenzo, that was some very good insight, because I felt like my first interview, I felt like I was really nervous, and I kind of felt like it was like a traditional interview more like. But my second interview, and which was a school I went to, it felt more like a conversation. It flowed really nice, and and I felt really good about it. And so yeah, like Lorenzo was saying, just kind of let your personality kind of take over, and kind of try not to turn it into like an actual interview.
And I want to add on to that. Those are really good points, like what both of y'all said. So personally, I haven't had official like med school interviews yet, but I did through my service, like actually work giving interviews or being the interviewer for people joining the service. And so it's all parallel. Like for sure, Lorenzo, that's a really good point. You're getting the interview, you're already qualified for it. They're just trying to probe you, like how your personality is, what kind of person you're like what is the, the person behind the stats and stuff. So don't, I think one of the biggest things, sometimes we'll have people coming in interviews and trying to show like how qualified they are, like through numbers and things like that. Like that's not what people want to see. They already know all that. They can pull that up on your resume or a transcript or something like that. And then also what Noah said is a really good point. I think you mentioned like utilizing like your professors or just other people around you for sure. Reaching out to them and like just even having conversations, utilizing like your professors to practice just doing like interviews is super, super important to kind of like pick their brain because you never really know how you're coming off of to someone else until you actually hear it back. And so I think my largest advice would be to actually pay attention to how you react to your own behavior and questions that like might probe that, since the majority of the questions are going to be to kind of analyze like how you are as a person. So the biggest thing that we always say is you can always gain and improve a skill or a knowledge, but rarely can you change a behavior that's instilled in someone, right? So you can always study a book, but you can't change someone's personality. So it's super, super important to be self-aware and to be aware of those things. And you'd be surprised how many people like really miss these kind of questions and slip up some really big red flags. So just be really self-aware.
Awesome. That was all like really good advice. So the next question is, what helped you the most and what did not help you during undergrad?
Okay. I think that honestly, and I know this sounds cheesy because like we're in a Shamos meeting, but Shamos, I feel like helped me the most. I mean, it was something not related to nursing. A lot of my friends did Student Nurses Association or, other things like that, volunteering. But like Shamos was just something, I was secretary and vice president for a couple of years. And so, I mean, it was just something away from nursing, but still related to medicine. So people understood like the study schedule and things like that. But we did fun things I think ball wall was like one of our favorite things. I love that kind of stuff, putting baskets together, or like the walks on the weekends definitely got me away from my dog. Got us away from studying, things like that. And it was, I mean, we still talk to people from Shamos nowadays, like Fall. We love Fall and Maya, Morgan, everybody. I mean, we still talk to a lot of people, even the people before us. Just really good friends. And I think that's what helped me the most in my undergrad, just getting away from nursing for a while. We also got a dog, best decision ever. Um, but and then that took a lot of stress away too. I'd say what did not help you during undergrad. Um, no shade, but some of the advisors were very discouraging. I feel like once they saw my score, they were just like, "You're not good enough." Like literally told me, "Do not apply, do not apply." And if I can say anything to anybody, either nursing or anything, if it's free and it doesn't cost you anything, the worst thing that they can tell you is no. And then even then, you already have your name out there, and so they'll just see that you came back again and you're persistent. Just go ahead and do it. Don't listen to the discouragement from people. I think just go for it. If it doesn't cost you anything, and maybe you put a couple hours into your application or things like that, I would say just go for it. I'd say that wasn't helpful when people say, you know, don't do any, but just do it.
I think I want to piggyback off of that. What Kara said, for sure, that's also exactly what I was gonna say. I think it's really cheesy, but joining orgs like Shamos, Triveda, if you're in that too, you probably are, and just also TAing, those are probably what helped me the most in undergrad. Just like I guess like personal development wise. So for TAing, I chose to TA chemistry courses, especially since chemistry was a really like weak spot for me. So I challenged myself to like teach it so that I can prove. And then with orgs and just like leadership in general, I was a completely different person before I joined orgs. And it taught me so many things that like I could never learn through a book, like taking initiative or like advocating for others and like what I believe in. So those are some really important skills that you can't learn anywhere else besides working with people. And it's today something that I always carry with me, like through my service, and for sure, probably through medical school and a physician. And then I think also a really good piece of advice for joining orgs is it helped me to be involved in two different types of groups of orgs. Hello, doggy. Sorry, I got distracted by the dog. But joining two different types of orgs is really helpful. So join an org outside of your pre-health or like your science field, like maybe service or something that you're really interested in, to really anchor you and teach you about different perspectives and to learn from other people that you're not really familiar with. And yeah, because during undergrad, you really don't know until you leave, but it's like the only chance that you'll get to learn from so many different types of people and be involved in such like a large diverse group, because college is like one of the only places with so many different types of people in the same population for sure. So don't take it for granted.
I'm just going to quickly add on to that and I'm going to head out. So thank y'all for having me. But yeah, I think one of my favorite things is joining organizations and, just putting yourself out there. And one thing I could say is that don't spread yourself too thin, don't join too many, definitely try to pick and choose what you really want to do, but be passionate about it, because I really think that if you're in an organization, give it your all, because I really feel like you can learn a lot of things from joining an organization. Similar to what Fall is saying, you don't learn a lot of things. You can learn a lot of things that you don't learn in a book. And so just be passionate about it and just really try to get involved. But thank you all again.
And just to pick up what they're saying, they're correct 100%. I want to especially emphasize what Noah said. Do not stretch yourself too thin. I'll tell you that 3 to 2 organizations that you care about the most is more valuable than being part of 8 or 10. And so when you get a part of that and when you start to understand that your time is limited, you got to take a step back sometimes and just relax. And I learned that the hard way in undergrad. I didn't do that. I was just like straight books, straight orgs, TA, all that stuff. So it obviously it was good, but and it was fun to be a part of most of them. But sometimes, you know, it was I was just so stressed out, and so it's good to like chill out a little bit. It's okay to not be in 30 orgs. It's okay to sometimes get like, you know, it's okay to get a B. It's okay to get a C. You know, it now that I'm in med school, right? I can tell you that. I know you don't understand it now, but it's honestly like if you get a certain grade in the course and you get past it, go. Keep going. Like if you barely pass OChem, you know, if you get a C, you know, you pass. Get over it. Let's go to biochem because your strength wasn't there. And you have to understand that. And you can bring it up in interviews, you can bring it up to anyone, you can bring it up to your personal statement, you can like justify it any way you can, but like as long as you get past it and you're able to show them that you're capable of being a med student, that's all that matters. They're not gonna worry about, oh, I got a C in OChem one and I need to retake it my senior year while I'm taking biochem. Like, no, like don't do that. Like just chill out. It's not like that. Just be like, you got past that part. Now move on and keep going. There's other parts of the app besides GPA, besides numbers that matter. And so service, your passion, and then whatever else you do. It's good to just chill out.
Okay, so kind of following up with that. So what are some things that you wish you had done during your undergrad that you didn't?
I would say that I wish I'd done during undergrad that I didn't. Well, they say you're not supposed to work during undergrad, but sometimes I wish, I would have done something medical related. But I know that that can be hard, but sometimes I wish I would have done something like that. But another thing is, and I don't regret anything in my undergrad, but it took us like our senior year to go to the Fox. Like, come on, there's something wrong with that. It took us like, we showed them our ID and they were like, what do you mean this is your first time here? You're a junior or a senior. And we were like kind of embarrassed. But I mean, it is what it is. If you have the time to do that and you feel confident in your studies and you can spend a Saturday night out, like I can tell you right now, once you start getting these bills, it ain't no joke. So you're not gonna have time to spend money on other things like that. So I wish sometimes that I would have either gone out more or like traveled more because now that I'm on a work schedule, it's kind of hard. But if you have the time and like you're confident in say you work Monday through Thursday super hard and your reward that weekend is to go Friday, Saturday or something like that, I say do it because I kind of regret that I didn't do that.
I'm gonna piggyback off of that because I swear, Carol, we have the same brain. That's also what I was gonna say. Just spend more time like enjoying your undergrad and like going to events and traveling more. Because like I think a lot of us who are like pre-health, we're always so involved like org wise and academically that I don't know about y'all, but I never actually did like social things outside of orgs, like going to football games and stuff, which was really sad. And like you really take for granted during your undergrad how much free time you actually have. Like if you just get your life together and find your studying time, and then you really have so much free time. After that, it's like all down the drain. And I just wish I had more time like that to just like enjoy it, hang out with friends, and just be social for sure.
And like I was saying before, it's okay to chill out. I can't stress that enough. Like, it's sad to say that I have more free time in med school than I did in undergrad. And that's like, that should be the opposite. So, like, I find your rhythm and just chill out. Like, sometimes it's okay to, like Kara was saying, take that Saturday off or take that. If you're having a bad night, don't push it. Like if you're having a bad night and you know you can't study that night, like go to bed or go to sleep. Like you find it better when you're refreshed than when you're just studying all day, all night, you know. And some people are driven. Like personally, like that's what I do. Like I'm a push, I'm gonna keep pushing, but like that works for me. It maybe not work for you. So that's important to understand that You're not going to be like everybody. And one of the most important things I would say, right? Do not compare yourself to other people. Do not compare yourself to, like, I'm not sitting here comparing myself to Kara. I'm not sitting here comparing myself to Fall, to Noah, to Michael, anybody. Like, you got to be your own person. One thing in med school is that, like, when we take our exams, right? And each week we have like courses and we answer questions from our professors based off of the courses that we watch videos over. So it's kind of like a live session of questions where you're supposed to know all the information. I study my ass off to get to those questions and I still get them wrong. And other people over here firing out answers and they're going back and forth at it. And I'm like, whoa. But it's like, I had to understand that I'm not them and they're not me. When it comes to test time, we will know the same information. I may not get it as fast as you, but I'll get there. And that's really important to understand that you're not going to be like the next person. You're not going to get things like that, or at least that's for me. Or maybe you're faster than the next person and you can take more breaks. Like that's important to understand. Like start to understand that about yourself when you're studying and you start thinking about what I'm saying. You'll be like, what kind of person am I? Am I a fast learner? Am I a slow learner? Am I like this dude? Am I like that dude? Like don't do that stuff. Like just worry about yourself. You're in a race with nobody but yourself, honestly. And just remember that because once you do, the faster you realize that, the faster you'll be able to like chill the F out. Because like I learned that and now I'm like, I would say that I'm more chill with it.
Awesome. And then during your undergrad, were you involved in research? And then how did you get involved with research? And then are you doing any research now?
So I've done 2 research projects total. One, well, they both been mandatory. I don't want to sound like a good person. I haven't done them, out of, scientific passion. But one of them, I did enjoy both of them, I will say. So one of them was in nursing school, and it was basically like music therapy and how it affects neonates in the ICU. So that was pretty cool. Basically, I would play classical music when a baby was either crying or their vital signs were elevated, and then I would monitor if their heart rate decreased with that, and it did. So that was pretty cool. The babies liked the music, and it basically calmed them in a non-pharmaceutical way. And then I did one as an RN right now that I just did, and basically I have a picture of it. It's this device. I pulled it up. I don't know if y'all can see that. It looks like this, and it's called Buzzy, and it's pretty popular in the pediatric population. And it's a little tiny, there's ladybugs and bees, and it has little ice wings on it, and it vibrates. So it's just battery powered. It vibrates, and you put it above where you're going to be poking for an IV or for a shot. And the vibration stimulation kind of distracts the nerves in that area and decreases pain when you go in with your injection. So that's pretty cool. I enjoyed that. And my research project was successful, and we got about 10 more of the little Buzzy products throughout the hospital. So now the kids come in and they know what they want. They're like, I want Buzzy. So that's pretty cool. And I've even heard adults take it to like their dental procedures and stuff like that after the research showed. So that's pretty cool.
So I was involved in 2 research projects. I did one in polymer chemistry with Dr. Hobbs, and I did another in biology with Dr. Chowdhury. So I was on that research project that Noah was on, and we got a publication out of it. And so my research experience is very extensive, but I learned through that research is not for me. And that's okay. Like so the consensus about med school is that you have to do research. That you don't have to do research. Don't push research if you don't want to do research. For me, I wanted to know what it was about. So it became a passion for me because it was like, what's this all about? Why are people, research is very important in medicine. I want to figure out why. And so that's why I started. I went to the professor myself. And I would do this first. The professor you're interested in shadowing, if you're taking their course, bother them, ask them questions. Like I would go to like office hours asking questions I already knew the answer to because I wanted him to know my name. I wanted him to make sure that, hey, this kid's coming in a lot, like he's passionate. So I started bothering him, Dr. Hobbs at least. And then once he started to know my name and he knew what I was talking about, I asked him, like, he was a new professor there, and I kind of went like, hey, so what's your research about? And when professors aren't going to shy away from you, if you ask them what the research is about, most of them will be like, well, this is what I do, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, that's really cool. Like, do you have, and then you ask them, you don't tell them, like, I would love to do research. No, you'd be like, well, do you happen to have any extra time that I may come in and see or something like that? And that's what I did. And I asked him, like, can I see you, like, what you're working on and how this applies to medicine? And we actually, his research specifically worked on biodegradable gels in order to deliver medications through the body in a faster way. Of course, he was in the very preliminary stages with polymer chemistry, but that's eventually what his like chemistry wanted to do. So I was like, okay, that's really cool. And so we started a regimen. And one thing that is really important to maintain is you have to be consistent. If you're gonna say, if you say you're gonna do this, you better do it. Professors hate when you show up to one research meeting and then you never show up again. Like once you do something like that, you just might as well just cut your ties because that's not a good sign on you. And you prove something to them that you looked eager, but you were unreliable. So if you're gonna ask about something, right? First, you ask if you're interested. If you're not interested, that's cool. Like you don't have to do research. But if you're interested, then you better be committed because you don't want that bad reputation on the name. Because professors, believe it or not, they talk, and your name will go around as not as like they don't talk all the time. Like they're not gonna care if like you asked about the research and missed one meeting. They're not gonna remember you. But like it's okay, like to put yourself out there a little bit. Like make sure you're eager. Make sure you show them you care. Make sure you ask them questions. Make sure you bug them. And sometimes professors won't have room, and that's okay too. So that's if you're interested in research. If you're not interested in research, don't do it. There's plenty of other ways to show that you're passionate about science and medicine through service, through organizations, and through any other thing. Like, I would say that finding something you're passionate about is worth more than having something on your resume because you can talk about it. You can bring it up in an interview. You can do anything you want with it. It's just these are the cardinal sins is that you have to do research, you have to do volunteering, you have to do that. Like, no, no, no. Okay, you do have to do volunteering. That's one thing I would say. If you don't do volunteering, you don't want to be a doctor. So you have to do that. The research is not a requirement to be a doctor. So if you want to do it, do it. If you don't, that's okay too. Don't feel obligated that this dude right here is doing research and presentations and stuff like that. Like some people I'm going to med school with didn't even touch a lick of research. Like that's okay.
Yeah, just to add on to that, those are like really good points. Like if it's not something that you want to do, don't even bother with it. Show your strengths in other areas for sure. It's really time consuming and it's not something that like, you just want to like, oh, like let me just join research just because. And for sure, like even the way that curriculum at SAM is set up, like the classes we take, you will get your hands on research during like the classes, your upper level courses that you take. And so for me, that was like the time that I got to be most involved in research was like through special projects for some of the upper like 4,000 level courses, and that was pretty cool too. So don't sweat about it if you don't have time for research, not really something that you want to do. You still will get the experience for sure, at the very least. And then if research is something that for sure you want to get involved in, like yeah, same. Just literally go up to the professor, ask them about it. Most professors love their research. They're there for mostly their research. And so they will love to talk to you about it. Just ask them if they need any extra hands. Most of the time, if you're interested in the research project, if you know the professor, they'll say yes. Or if not right now, later they'll hit you up if they know that you're really serious about it for sure. So don't be afraid to if you really want to go down that route.
And then something I want to add to that. So I think a lot of us kind of get stuck in this mentality that we need to do either biology or chemistry research, but there's research in other departments too. Like I just got done with a research project for population health, and it was like one of the funnest things I've ever done. And I got paid. So like if you want to go into like research with psychology or population health or any of the other departments, you can do that too. And then the next question is, how did you go about writing your personal statements?
So the personal statement, I rank it up there with the MCAT. The personal statement is extremely important, extremely important. And the amount of prep time that I put into my personal statement was very extensive. And I recommend it for everyone too. I think I started like 6 months before my application. And what I did is I wrote my story, and I did a really rough, like super rough draft. And I sent it to people that really meant like mentors and people who I really value their opinion. And so when I sent it off, I sent it to PIs, I sent it to mentors from medical schools, I sent it to some family members and things like that. And so it's really important for people to see your personal statement. Now, that doesn't mean, hey, send it to every single body and then listen to everybody's feedback and then try to implement everybody's feedback. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that take their feedback. If you like it, implement it. If you don't, keep it. There was one doctor that I asked to see my personal statement. He said my personal statement was too personal. And so it's like, I'm not changing that. Like, this is what my personal statement is. And personally, for me, I'm a minority and I'm a first generation college student. I came from a rough background. And so that was my chance. Like, and you have to take that sense of pride in it too. Like, you have to understand, like, this is your shot to tell them why you deserve it. Even if you have a low MCAT score, even if you have a low GPA, this and that and the other, this is your shot right here. This is the difference maker, and that's how I took it. I literally cried on a piece of paper, and I had it revised, and we got it tweaked until the point to where it was my masterpiece. It may not have been the best one, but it was my best one. And so what's important is that like that's what sets you apart from a lot of the students that you're applying with, is that personal statement. So take that very seriously. Put your lives to work on it, what got you into medicine, things like that, what you've done to contribute. And I think those are really important cues. And there's obviously a lot of things. I'm just scraping the surface of what you need for your personal statement. But like it's very important. It's up there with the MCAT, it's up there with everything. And they'll definitely bring it up in interviews and med school interviews. Your personal statement will come up a lot, everything in it, everything about it. So once you write it, don't lie either. Like, if don't fabricate anything, because if you write it in there, they will bring it up. And when they bring it up, you better know everything about it. So if you decide to talk about your research that was really passionate to you, you better know all the ins and outs of that research project. Or if you decide to talk about, you know, say you lied or something and you forget what you talk about in your personal statement, like, you're out because they know you're lying. So make sure it's real, make sure it's you, and make sure that it's well written, well revised.
Yeah, that's like really, really good point. Just like also piggyback on all of that is like seriously, your personal statement is so important. It's literally your story, like your life story. It's about you. It's not something that you want to just write up in a day, overnight, like right before applications are due. Like it's your experiences and what makes you want to pursue the passions that you want to do. So just keep that in mind. I know like most commonly a lot of people will want to write, like, just because sometimes we don't know what to write like personal statement about, right? So a lot of people will be like, oh, well, why do I want to become a doctor, or like whatever you want to become? Oh, because I excelled in these classes, and that's just where I'm headed. Like, think deeper about it, and it's okay to like take time to do that. Just take it really seriously. Think about like, how does it make you feel? Like, it's so cheesy, but like, how does it make you feel to like care for other people? Like, how would you feel if you were a doctor? What are you going to do about that? Like, maybe it's something that you've personally experienced. Like, think back in your head every single experience that you've ever like had to get you to this point. And so for me, it's kind of been like something that I started since my freshman year of college, that I'll write everything on my iPhone cloud. anytime I get really passionate, I'm kind of like an inside my head speaker. So I talk to myself a lot and I'll get passionate about things like, we all have those moments, like our generation loves to be like advocates and stuff like that. Like write all that down, like what you're feeling like if you have an experience with something, like you see people being really mistreated by like physicians or in healthcare system, write all that down, all you're feeling, because you never know what you're going to be choosing for your content. Just save all of it later, and then when the time comes to write it, you can just pick and pull from that, and it'll help a lot. And it also keeps you a little bit grounded to kind of remember like why you're there in the first place. And also, like, I also agree with Lorenzo. Try to get like a different set of eyes from different backgrounds to view your personal statement. Just try to create something really great and get feedback from different people. So like, try not to stick to just your like your science professors. Think about maybe even history, because you never know. Your personal statement should be like universal, and you never know who's going to be that person reviewing the paper and trying to relate to it. So you want to make sure that it can be relatable in all areas, but at the same time, for sure, like make sure it's your story and that you're really passionate before you submit it.
And then Kara, you didn't have to write a personal statement, did you?
No, not exactly. More so just like a brief summary of like why I'm passionate. And they basically ask you those things in the interview. But you just basically like what they're saying, you need to just say what you're passionate about. And if you've had any personal experiences, like for me, pediatrics, like why you would want to be in a pediatrics, or what you've experienced in your life that leads you in that direction, why medicine, things like that. But mine wasn't as lengthy as like a personal statement. It was more so just like a brief summary of my qualification skills and like why I want to do that. But a lot of my stuff was more so covered in the interview rather than like a paper.
Okay, cool. And then Marcos says thanks. What is your daily med student / nurse routine? And then how did that change every year? So I'm guessing like what you just do throughout the day.
Sure, and I can kind of touch on both of and the advice too at the bottom, kind of in the same one. So basically, I work 3 days a week. So that's considered full time as a nurse. I got really lucky that I'm on day shift. I have about 5 of my really close nursing friends, and all of them are on night shift. It's basically just like how you start off in the nursing world is night shift, 7 p to 7 a. I got really lucky. I'm like the only one that I know that's on days. Um, which isn't really different in the ER, whether your days or nights. People are going to come in if they're sick regardless. But for other people, it might be a little better to be night shift because everybody's sleeping. But basically, I work 3 days a week. We get to pick our schedules. So you only have to work like 3 days of the week in a month. So one Saturday, one Sunday, vice versa. Any days that you want to work. And then basically, now that I live in Houston, I still work in the Woodlands, Texas Children's. So I get up at 5:30, 45-minute commute. I'm there from 7 a to 7 p, get home about 8 o'clock. Our assignments differ. So we're a 4-to-1 patient ratio. So 4 patients to 1 nurse, which can be kind of crazy when the ER is booming. And then we change assignments every 4 hours. So I'll be bedside for like 4 hours, doing orders and workups. And then another 4, I'll be moved to triage, where you're like the nurse to set eyes on them first. And if they need to go to bed faster, if they need to go to a major treatment room, if a doctor needs to see them immediately, you need to start stuff on them. And then either stay in triage or back to bedside, things like that. Yeah, and then sleep at 8 p.m., get home, shower, do everything again at 5:30 the next day if you do 3 in a row. So, and then some advice I can give. I'd say just enjoy what you do. I have some people that I know that did nursing, and I'd say they're happy because it's not, a bad career. You can do a lot of things with it. But when you sign a contract for a hospital, like make sure that you want to be there. Like I got really lucky with my job, and I'm like one of the few people of my friends that really enjoy their job, and Texas Children's did not make me sign a contract. So I'm free to leave whenever I want. And then I have other people who maybe that's not their first passion is what they're doing. They wanted to do something specific and they're not able to do that because they're in a contract. So don't stick. And then a lot of the times they say, do med surge, do med surge. You need to do med surge because you need to get experience. Any of my people who are doing nursing, that's not true. You're not going to be happy unless you really want to do med surge. You need to be happy about what you're doing and going to work. I look forward to seeing these kids like every day when I go. If I wasn't a nurse, I'd probably be a teacher because I would do this for free. And I would never tell my bosses that, but I would do this for free. That's how much I like it. So you really have to like enjoy going into what you're doing. You don't have to do med surge. You can do a specialty. Um, and also, if you want to go back to school, go back to school. You can get your master's, your nurse practitioner. Like there's so many things that you can do. That's just some advice I'd give. Just don't stop. Just keep going.
So for me as a med student, um, it's definitely hard. I hate to like keep emphasizing that, but it's definitely something different, and it's been an adjustment for sure. But I cannot emphasize, and I know Noah said this, and I think Michael did too. Like the schedule is very important. Like hour by hour, day by day, every single day, everything. It's all planned out, and that's what's helping me get through the hardest times in med school. I just took an exam today, and I have another one tomorrow. So like usually you'd be like, oh hell no, I can't do something like this tonight. But like, you know, I planned it out to where I could do something like this tonight because this stuff means something to me. So like make sure you schedule things that mean something to you. Even though you're at your busiest moments, you can still put it in as long as you're responsible. And so that's been the key for me. That would be the biggest advice. And then um I wish I could just lay out everything that I did so that it could try to help you out, but there's just not enough time in the world to do that. But I would say that one, to chill out. Like this isn't the hardest part. The hardest part is yet to come. So if you think it's hard right now, just chill because it's not. And it's okay. If you're struggling right now, reach out. Like don't be scared. Don't try to do this on your own. I know I try to all the time, but like I'm starting to learn that reaching out is a good thing. Starting to talk to other people. People can teach you, even though you don't like to be taught. You can be taught. Like there's different ways to learn. There's different things to do. Like don't do this by yourself. Seek help if you need help. And then two, this one's more technical, but like, um, if you haven't used Anki before, get familiar. Anki, Anki, Anki. Anki is this resource that it's like virtual cards, and in med school, they're gonna give you Anki, or they're not gonna give you Anki. You can actually get Anki right now on your own, but Anki is you can make cards instead of making flashcards, like physical flashcards. And when you get to med school, you're gonna have access, or I think you can get access to it now, but you can get access to this big deck of cards that's gonna be able to be used for your entire medical career. It's called On King. And I wouldn't worry about On King right now because I'm definitely not an On King or Anki expert, but like Anki is really a difference maker. And if you can, one thing that I wish I would have done is learn how to use Anki before med school because trying to learn it while going to med school is hard. Like, yeah, you can even use it on the MCAT, like Anki decks for the MCAT, Anki questions, all this kinds of stuff. Like Anki, you don't have to like learn how to use it, but I feel like if you learn how to use it now, it'll come back up again in med school, and you already know how to use it. So it's like if that becomes your cup of tea, try it out. There's videos on it. There's an Anki YouTube page that shows you how to use Anki. Like you can use it for undergrad classes. It's super helpful for the MCAT. You're gonna use it in med school, so that's what I would do. Try to use Anki. If you don't like it, drop it, and then it'll be reintroduced to you again. It's gonna come back. But if you don't like it, don't use it. If you like it, keep using it and then become a pro when it comes to med school and all that stuff is going to be like that. Like Anki, that's something that I wish I would have done before med school is learn how to use Anki.
Okay. Can anyone think of any other questions that they might have since we're here? No. Okay. I don't see any in the chat, so I think we're good. So that's it for this meeting. Thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to do this.
Of course. Of course.
Yes,
Happy
thank
to
y'all so much.
see y'all.
Yeah, it means a lot. Thank you guys. It was really good to see you too.
Yeah, we're happy to always be back. I'm trying to get to Michael's level.
Even if it's not in person, we're happy to see y'all.
Oh yeah. All right. Well,
Inviting us.
that's it.
All right, guys. I'll see you at an exam tomorrow.
Text y'all soon.
Have a good night.
Bye. Y'all be safe. Good luck,
Love
everyone.
y'all.
Bye-bye. Good luck, y'all.
Bye.